Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Beta.
We live full-time in a converted school bus.
So today we're going to dive into expenses with living in the bus and what we've experienced so far.
From gas to dogs to camping, we're going to be breaking everything down to kind of like a little list just to, help anyone else out that's living on the road or, kind of see how we do it. So let's get into it. So obvious, gas, gas is a pretty big expense for most people. For us, we don't really move that often. We kind of have only moved like 2 times.
Maybe 2 or 3 times so far. I mean, for now we're just parked at my family's house for the time being.
Yeah.
So we hit the road full time eventually.
Yeah, so we don't really have to fill up as often as a lot of other people because our main thing is going to be, finding a spot to kind of park and hang out for a little bit. But if you are planning on moving often, or if you do have a big trip planned, make sure you plan for gas because that is going to be a pretty big expense.
Well, I mean, right now we probably get, 10 to 13 miles a gallon. So, average, depending on where we're at, gas is cheaper in some places. Like, when we were back home in Florida, it was probably, $115 to fill up, right? And then now, I mean, again, it's a little bit cheaper up here. So, it's probably $80, $90 to do a full tank.
So if you are planning on a big drive, just, make sure you budget for gas. Gas is going to be different everywhere you go. And gas is a pretty volatile thing right now. It's up and down all over. We've seen it as high as almost $4 and as low as almost like $2.25. So it can range pretty significantly depending on where you're going to be going throughout the United States. So just make sure you budget for gas.
Also, depending on your type of bus that you have, if you have a gas bus or a diesel bus, that has to do with it as well.
Yeah, so on to the next.
So food is another big expense as well. I mean, we're pretty good about keeping in a budget, and I mean, we honestly survive off of soup and ramen and easy things to make. We like making quesadillas, paninis, simple stuff. I mean, also shopping at cheaper grocery stores, Walmart and stuff like that keeps your expenses down more too.
Yeah, and we also make a lot of budget-friendly meals. There's a lot of van lifers on YouTube that make these crazy, extravagant meals. That's not really like our speed. We like to cook, but not that serious all the time. We kind of keep it simple. I'm a big soup person. Cans of Campbell's soup are very cheap, and you can get 1 or 2 meals out of them for a bigger guy like me. We got a panini press that's been saving us a lot because you can get a lot of different meals out of something as simple as a panini press. We make the pizza paninis, we make the quesadillas in there, and there's a lot of budget friendly options for people. You don't have to make every meal on a stovetop. We don't have a stovetop in our bus, not one that's built into the bus like other people. We find ways around it. There's other things that you can make.
Yeah, we just have the Gourmet Elite, right, that we just plug in, and we haven't even used that yet, honestly. We really survive off the panini press and the toaster. Those are the main 2 things that we cook with, again, because the panini press is so easy. You can make so many things on it, and it's just neither of us really like to cook like that much either. It's a lot of effort being in a small space like this, too.
Yeah, and I would say a monthly average, maybe $300 at most.
At most. And I mean, back home we were spending $300 every week and a half on groceries.
Yeah, so
it's cut down a lot since we've been on the road, surprisingly.
Yeah, and you can really, stretch your food budget very far in a bus or van, especially with budget-friendly foods. You don't have to be going out making extravagant meals every night. You can make healthy options for pretty inexpensive, and there's a lot of options. So the next expense that we have is our insurance. This is one that gets a lot of traction online with how to get insurance for your bus or van, or insurance costs, what's it going to cost. For us, ours is insured as a commercial vehicle because in the state that we have our bus insured in, Florida, it doesn't meet the requirements for an RV, and you also need it to you have to bring it to a professional conversion shop, and then you have to prove the conversion with receipts and certifications and all this stuff. We didn't do all that, so ours is a commercial vehicle. It's a small bus. It costs us around $80 a month for insurance, which is significantly less expensive than either of us were spending on insurance.
It is liabilities, and again, it also depends on, what insurance company you're going with and what kind of bus you have and what you have it insured as. So, we lucked out pretty well, I think, in the insurance aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, we did get really lucky, and the process was kind of back and forth for
It
a
was a
couple
pain.
weeks. It was a pain. It was like it was insured, it was not insured. The underwriters had to look at it, so it was definitely a process of like, if you're planning on getting a bus or a van or something, figure out your insurance first. Speak to a licensed insurance professional and really try to see if you can lock something in, before going all the way in on your vehicle.
Yeah, get lots of quotes, lots of options before you just dive into something. So the next thing would be subscriptions. That's a pretty big one for us as well. Starlink is a major one. That's probably our most expensive subscription that we have. Internet, because we both need internet. He works online, so that's just a must. We also have like Canva in order to edit videos and do stuff like that. And we have SoundCloud, so he has his music, and gaming subscriptions as well.
So, as far as like subscriptions go, like obviously, she went over the basic stuff. Like we don't really do Netflix or Hulu or anything like that anymore just because Netflix is trash. I'm not even gonna lie. I haven't seen a good show on Netflix in years. I had pretty much no subscriptions coming into this other than really my Canva for my album covers, my Nintendo, which is like $4 a month, I think, and then my SoundCloud, which is another $10 a month. So I'm not really a subscription heavy person. I don't really use a lot of subscription things. I mean, all in all, it'd probably be about $200 a month on subscriptions.
So we're stretching if we say about like $215, $230 at the most. Amazon is a big one. Honestly, Amazon is a must with being in a bus or a van because you have so many options for the pickup. Things that we can't get at stores or things that are cheaper on Amazon. Like that one definitely does help us out a lot.
Yeah, so, take those into account. Don't forget, there's a lot of subscriptions. Go through your bank accounts and make sure that you don't have anything that you don't need. Like, there are a lot of times where you'll go through and see that you've been paying for something that you don't need,
Or something you didn't realize at all.
Exactly. So the next big one would be camping expenses. This is one that I didn't really have a lot of people talking about before. Like, you just kind of hear people talking about driving their bus places, and then you see beautiful videos of them hanging out places. A lot of those places are not free. Some of them are free. If they're like Bureau of Land Management, they're free, but most of the time you're paying like, even if it's $5, $5 does add up every night. Our first campground was $5 a night. We stayed there for a week, so we spent like $30 camping there, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things when it's your rent. Like,
When you
but
compare
still,
it to rent.
yeah, but
It's not as
it
much.
still is like an expense that you should think about.
Yeah, I mean, mainly, like, we stayed at a park, and then also, like, the app called HipCamp. That's the other thing that we use, where people rent out their own land, and, you could get cheaper sites or more expensive depending on the amenities that they offer, but that's a really good source as well to find places to stay. We
Yeah.
found that one once we hit the road.
Yeah, so, just take it into account. It's not a huge expense, and there are a lot of free options, but worst comes to worst, you may have to Airbnb for a night. Like, we did that for our first night out, just so the dogs weren't by themselves because we had to leave the bus. So, keep that in mind. Airbnb is an option. You're not always stuck, in the middle of nowhere camping with just the trees if you don't want to be. All right, so for us, another one is our dog expenses. If you have a dog or cat or animals, those are expenses that you do need to take into account, their food. Like for us, we have like the bags that you pick up their poop in, like stuff like that, cleanup supplies, just random pet expenses.
I mean, food is definitely the most expensive part. It just depends on which dog it is, too. Like, I mean, on average, the little one, Vera, we probably spend like $50 a month on her food, and then Trout, our other one, it's probably like $25 a month. It's just because she doesn't have any more teeth, so she has to eat wet food. And she's also really picky like me.
Yeah, so, another expense that can come up,
Emergency vet bills, that's the other thing. You want to have some money saved aside for that. God forbid, something happens when you're in the middle of nowhere, or, you just have to take them to a vet because they're sick or something like that. That adds up as well.
All right, lastly, one thing we wanted to go over were just like random bus upgrades that, once we hit the road, there were some things that we wanted to get. There are things that we are constantly changing in the bus, getting in the bus. There's new things all the time. We get like power banks, like little ones. Don't buy cheap ones.
Seriously,
don't do what we
don't.
did. Like, don't buy a bunch of the cheap ones from like Walmart. Go with like the more expensive brand name power banks. An Anker power bank. This one was like $30.
I think it was on sale for like 20. I think usually it's like $30. Yeah.
Yeah, but like things from brand names, like from trusted places, they actually have the capacity where like a 10,000 milliamp hour one should be able to charge your phone a few times over and like charge your random devices over and over, so you don't have to continuously keep the banks charged plus your things charged, because we have a bunch of like cheaper power banks that
Won't even charge a phone completely.
Yeah,
or won't
like-
charge a switch completely.
exactly, they won't charge your things all the way, which is just ridiculous to me. Other random upgrades are like trash bags, different ways to store trash, which sounds crazy, but you know, like you don't want your bus to smell, so there are different ways to go about disposing of things without having your bus smell.
Yeah, a nice like closed trash can with a lid, because we put the dog's food in there and stuff like that normally would stink up the bus immediately if you didn't have something enclosed.
Yeah, different things like lighting. We got puck lights that magnet to things, lighting situations that aren't draining our bus battery all the time, or they don't need to be plugged in. Just all sorts of different little upgrades that you'll figure out over time, like USB fans. Those are a lifesaver, as we have a bunch of fans. Random upgrades that you'll be doing every month on your bus.
Yeah, it's like the Anker power bank, the big one, was probably our most expensive upgrade that we put in the bus so far, at least
Anker-
electronic wise.
Yeah,
You know?
the Anker is a lifesaver. That thing came in super clutch. It powers everything we need. Powers our TV, our Switch.
The panini press, the coffee maker, again, like the little Keurig coffee maker, off-brand one, whatever.
It's an
it
off-brand
is.
one, and I'm
But-
going to talk about it in a different video because it is better than a Keurig, I've found out. It is something that I do want to talk about because it's a cheap coffee maker, but it's awesome, super good, better than a Keurig, 10 out of 10.
Toaster, all of those things.
Yeah, so there's a lot of little things that you might pick up along the way, and then there's some stuff that when you first get on the road you think you'll need and then you'll never use. You can always do this on a budget. You don't have to go spend $150,000, $200,000 on a bus for like conversion and all that. You can get something and kind of, you know, make it your own. It doesn't have to be the fanciest thing ever, as long as it keeps you dry when it's wet, cold when it's hot, and hot when it's cold. As long as it can do those three things, you know, it's a shelter, it's a safe place to be, and that's really all you need. You don't need all the bells and whistles. It doesn't need to be the most expensive thing ever.
Yeah, you can also start off with a lot less, and then as you go, you learn and figure out what's worth it, what you would want to spend the money on, and what you need and what you don't need.
Yeah, that's like our guide, our video, our budget, you know, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, thanks for watching, guys. We really appreciate it every time. If you have any questions or you want to know anything about the bus or anything like that, you know, feel free to let us know. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yes, and thanks again, guys, for watching.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Bye.